I have the greatest pleasure in welcoming you all back here to our first in-person summit since May 2019. So I can't tell you how excited, nervous, a bit scared, but terribly excited that all of us in the wheel are and have been. I'm now beginning to relax that we've started. So thank you very much to all of my colleagues who have worked amazingly hard to pull this off. Most of the people who were involved in organising today didn't work for the wheel when we last ran an in-person event. So they were working in the blind, so to speak, and so I am really pleased that so many people are here, that we have so much space, and there's loads of reserved space and tables down the very end. And I'm now going to stop the pitter-patter and really just say you're very, very welcome. It is the first time in 3 years, Minister. Thanks a million for coming. You're very, very welcome. And our chairperson, Vincent Keenan, will be introducing you in just a few minutes. And to get us in the mood, right? This is the first time we have come together in these large numbers as a sector. And we'll be speaking more about celebrating the work that all of you and us have done over the last 3 years. Specifically, when we talk about the volunteers in our organisations, the professional staff, which is a very important cohort of people working in our organisations, and indeed the volunteer charity trustees or board members. So, what I want to do is to play a short video, just 2 minutes, from the We Act campaign. Look, I am branded with merch, and my colleague Claire, there are hundreds and hundreds of organisations in the sector that have come together to run a public engagement and indeed a sector engagement campaign called We Act that launched in October. It has a 5-year plan of doing public engagement and sector engagement to help people understand the work of charities in the modern age, that we have professional staff and that we do an incredible work, we do incredible impact. So this campaign will be running for the next 5 years, initially seed funded by the Community Foundation for Ireland's RTE Does Comic Relief Fund, which was matched by the Government of Ireland. The campaign is off to a fantastic start. This year we're focusing very much on the theme of volunteering in our organisations, and thanks to the Minister and the DRCD, and the National Volunteering Strategy. The campaign has produced that theme this year and has produced a little bit of work. So what we're going to play now to get us in the mood is the We Act campaign video that is live on social media. It was launched last week. It was enabled by the Department of Rural and Community Development, and I think it really sets the scene for our organisations. Certainly the volunteer core component of so many of our organisations, and I'll come back after that. So if we want to roll the video, please.
Super.
Do you want me to say Nicola or Nikki? Are you happy with Nikki?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I forgot to ask.
Go ahead. Okay, no problem.
We'll become famous film stars
Yeah.
after this.
Oh, you're such a good speaker, honestly. You're so articulate.
The feeling that you've done something worthwhile is really it, that you've made a difference, even though it's a small difference. Let's not get carried away.
Oh, it's a big
small
difference. It's a big difference.
We think it's a small difference, you think it's a big difference, so
difference.
somewhere in between, but that's good, that's good. And you feel I've done something useful, and I'll do another next week, you know.
Get some out of paint in his living room. I must have a word with your wife.
No.
It's made a significant impact, and I think we do speak about it to ourselves, but maybe not enough to yourself. So thank you so much.
But you see, you don't do it for thanks or for, you know.
I think you don't do it for the thanks, but you deserve to get them.
Without those people, what would we be doing? Sitting at home, melting away. You'd have nothing in your life. And now we all look forward to go. Actually, we're going out looking for new tops to wear going to the club.
You are always so well dressed. You can tell everyone's always like really
A lot of the
sparkly.
women all get their hair done that morning, which they wouldn't do. And it is true, it does give you a new lease of life.
that's where there's such a reassurance to having and thinking about your impact. You're the backbone of that, you know, so don't sell yourself short.
It's so difficult. Now I'm terrible at answering questions about my age.
Not everyone has the mentality to do what you do. So again, thank you.
Well, it's nice to know.
They look after us every way you could possibly imagine. And I would love to be able to give them what they're giving back to me. It's absolutely wonderful. I would recommend it to anybody. There's no need to be on your own anymore. Not when you have people like that.
WeAct.ie and The Wheel is just one of the many organisations that are involved in this campaign. Just to stress that it is a collaborative campaign across the sector, and please visit the stand and get yourself some merch. So it feels like a lifetime since we were gathered here, as I said, in May 2019. So much has changed since then. It is becoming a little bit of a cliche, but our health and social services came under such strain, perilously close to breaking point. And now many of us are still working from home, and if not going back, perhaps for the rest of our careers, significantly working from home. Who knew that we'd have a war in Europe and that there'd be tens of thousands of refugees making their way for shelter and protection in our communities, and that the economic environment would become again so cloudy in terms of risks of inflation and indeed stagflation. And actually the challenges of 2019 haven't gone away in the sense that some of them have even become full-blown crises in relation to the climate and biodiversity crisis and the housing crisis. And through it all, our charities, community organisations, voluntary groups and social enterprises have been at the coalface. You have been providing essential services and leadership. You, the staff, the volunteers, the board volunteers, are the threads holding communities together. And during the pandemic, we showed how vital our community networks were, and the government acknowledged this through the contribution of the sector rescue package, the Stability Fund, led by DRCD but approved by the whole of government. So I'd like to, as the first speaker, to just put on record the sector's appreciation, or certainly our appreciation, the 14 umbrella organisations that were on the front cover of that proposal. You know, and again, the work that I'm sure the Minister will be talking about in relation to Ukraine. So on to today. You have your programmes, it's a jam-packed day, and we see the first session around policymakers ever more recognising the enormous size of our sector, and it's important, not just in supporting the country's social fabric and in providing essential services, but also in its significant economic contribution. So Vincent will be coming back to that. And since COVID, there are greater signs of partnership in more depth. We'll be exploring that and how that can actually be brought across into other parts of the sector. Second session then, after the coffee break, we saw the importance, how important compassionate leadership is in our sector. And we will be unveiling, after the coffee break, our brand new Leadership Academy for the entire non-profit sector. It's a new model for leadership development in the sector, and it's a major flagship programme for the Wheel, and indeed in terms of our offering through the National Training Fund for the sector, because upskilling and leadership are never more important than at a time of change and uncertainty. So it's our belief that so much more can be done. After lunch, we'll be breaking out into 4 practical sessions, exploring some of the practical challenges and opportunities facing your organisation. And then we finally come back together again. We'll do some reflecting on what we've learned throughout the past 2 years, and indeed how we've begun to process that here today. And we'll be talking a little bit in brief about the Wheel's plans for the next 5 years, all of which are outlined in our new strategy, which you, the members, endorsed at an EGM in the 5th of April this year. So it's shiny, hot off the press here for you today. So please pick up a copy, and we'll be coming back to that. But Then, at the very end of the day, we are delighted to welcome on Taoiseach Micheál Martin, who'll be joining us in person just after 4 o'clock for a very special address. And we move on to move into the celebratory part of the evening by our chairperson. We'll be announcing slightly delayed fashion the Dr. Mary Redmond 2021 award, which was intended to be awarded last December at our Charity Impact Awards, but couldn't be because we had to cancel them. So that award is being unveiled today, who the winner or winners of that is. And Vincent will talk more about that. And afterwards, we invite you to the reception. So a very packed day. I'd like to have a special word of thanks to 2 and to 3, who we're delighted will be our headline partners for the summit for the next 3 years. And indeed, thank you too to our associate partners, Salesforce and Adair Human Resource Management. And your coffee at the coffee breaks today is courtesy of I-Donate, so definitely thank them and acknowledge that. And indeed, I see MEP Grace O'Sullivan here because I want to thank the European Union, who are supporting some of the EU-themed sessions later this afternoon, and indeed part of that EU Engage project. So you would have passed through an expo stand. There's 32 stands here, so please make your way to visit them. The hashtag for the event is #CharitySummit. And so please share your comments on social media. There's 2 sort of social media walls here at the end, so that's where they'll end up. And I'd like to pass to our chair, Vincent Keenan. It's his first time meeting our members in person. And I actually think that I was so giddy and nervous at the very beginning. I said welcome to everybody, but I didn't actually name members, friends, partners, and associates. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to Vincent, who will introduce the Minister.
I was practicing all weekend because it's been 3 years since I addressed a room with so many people in it. But the one thing I would like to say, isn't it great? So, Minister, you're very welcome. And to all the members of the Wheel and all those in the sector who have joined us today. Our organisations are diverse with many issues that we deal with. But as a community, we're united in our vision of a thriving charity and community sector at the heart of a fair, just, inclusive society. As Deirdre has pointed out, today we will launch our new strategic plan, which was born during COVID. And one thing I would put in my gravestone is all those strategic meetings of the board held, and Sandra's down there smiling and chairing them on Zoom. But out of it, we have four key strategic objectives. One being an authoritative voice for the sector, supporting a very diverse sector, building a vibrant community of members and performing well to deliver success. I think, having been involved with the Wheel since 2014, there's one thing it does do, it does deliver, and I'm very confident that it will deliver on those objectives going forward. I just want to put my chair hat on at the minute, and we've been thanking a lot of people over the last weeks about COVID and everything else, and I suppose as a membership organisation and in my role, I would like to pay a special tribute to Deirdre and her team, who I know had constant calls and supports to members all throughout the country for the last 2 years, and they took that on very well, and I know from members telling me how appreciative they were of that, so I think it's important to acknowledge that this morning. Minister, as you know, there's 560,000 people regularly volunteer their time for charities and community groups, 12,000 registered charities and 20,000 community organisations. 186,000 people are employed by the sector, and we're very fortunate this morning we have a minister who counts himself as one of those people, having spent 10 years in Crosscar and 3 years in the Immigrant Council, and he told me this morning he still considers himself very much part of the sector. There was some number of wins during COVID, and not least, Deirdre mentioned the Stability Fund, and that was done with partner organisations, but I think it's important to acknowledge the Minister's work in regard to that and supporting that, which proved very important for a number of organisations. And I know this morning I got a little tip that he might have some other news, but anyway, on the positive front. So the Minister was elected in February 2019 and in 2020 was appointed to the role, his current role. In office, he's been a real champion of our sector, and he's gone to great lengths to ensure positive engagement from his department and all the sector. It's my pleasure now to introduce Minister Joe Bryan. Thank you.